Hi, my name is Bill, and today's story is a true story about a man that had a really hard time believing that Jesus came back to life on the very first Easter. Will he ever believe? We're going to find out in our true story called Doubting Thomas. Now, after Jesus came back to life, Jesus' helpers hadn't seen Jesus yet, but they sure heard that he came back to life again, and they wanted to talk about what they had heard. So they went in a house, and they closed and locked the door and secretly began meeting. And while they were together, they started talking about what they had heard. And then something very interesting happened. They turned around, and there was Jesus. Now, Jesus didn't knock on the door. He didn't even open the door. He was just there. And they knew it was Jesus because, well, not only did he introduce himself, but he showed the scars in his hands where the nails had been placed in his hands on the cross. Well, Jesus spent some time with his helpers and talked with them. And then, all of a sudden, he was gone again. Now, Jesus' helpers were very excited, but there was one helper that wasn't there in that room. His name was Thomas. And so the helpers wanted to find Thomas and tell him what they had heard. And when they found him, they said, "Thomas, guess what? We saw Jesus." And you know what Thomas said? He said, "There's no way you could have seen Jesus. Jesus died. I saw him die on the cross." And his helpers said, "No, but he's back alive again. We saw him. We were meeting and he showed up." And Thomas said, "I doubt that could happen. People don't just die and come back to life again. I would have to actually see Jesus to believe that." Well, the next week, all the helpers met together again in that same house, and this time Thomas was there. And as they were talking about what they had heard, all of a sudden Jesus showed up again. And this time Thomas saw Jesus with his own eyes. But he still didn't believe it was Jesus. He said, "Jesus, for me to believe that that's you, I'm going to need to see the nail scars in your hands." So Jesus showed Thomas the scars where the nails had been placed in his hands. And Thomas still didn't believe. He said, "I need to touch to make sure that that's real." So Thomas touched the scars in Jesus' hands. And sure enough, Thomas believed. He could tell that this really was Jesus. And Jesus said, "Thomas, I'm really glad that you now know that I'm alive. I said that I would die, but I also promised that I would come back to life again." You know, Jesus was happy that Thomas finally did believe that he was alive again. But then Jesus said, "Thomas, I'm even more happy when people believe in me without having to see me first." You know, there's a lot of people in this world that have to see things in order to believe them. Things have to be proven to them before they believe that they're true. But there's a lot of things in this world we can't see. Like we can't see wind. And when a television station or a radio station transmits signals, well, we can't see those signals, but they're all around us. You know what we can do, though? We can see what these things do. For example, I can feel the wind when it hits my body or hits my face. And I can see what it does when the wind hits the leaves and trees. And when I turn on my television or listen to the radio, I know that those signals are hitting the television and radio and making them work. I also know Jesus is real because once I ask Jesus to be my forever friend, I can see the things he does in my life. And when I pray to him, I know that he's real because he answers my prayers. And sometimes he even does miracles. I hope you believe in Jesus, even though you can't see him. Because one thing I promise you is that for those who ask Jesus to be their forever friend, they'll not only see the things Jesus does now, but they'll see him face to face someday when they go to heaven. Well, it's time for me to go right now, but I'll be back again with another Bible story soon. So until then, bye-bye.